Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the Wicked Gamer and Collector. So in today's video we are going to do this tutorial or quick video regarding how to add games to the Pandora Games 3D and the Gamebox 3D Golden Sky. So the reason why I'm doing this more like combination video, because if you look at the software they are almost identical to each other. They have a little bit different name and there are some small minor differences. But if you look at the main core of the software, it's exactly the same, and also how you can add games. I already want to point out, it doesn't really matter what kind of version you have. This method is the same, but keep in mind that the support of games can always be a little bit differently. Fun fact, I did notice it with the Pandora Games 3D. I did a lot of messing around with it, and fun fact, when I received the second version, and yes, there are quite some different versions out there, and I'm guessing when you're seeing this video in the future they will make some improvements in the software itself. They will not always accept every game you want to put on it. And if you are going to put a game on it, it will not work very well sometimes. Just wanted to point it out. So we're going to skip to the tutorial. I'm going to explain to you how does the system work, because you need to understand how this device works, otherwise you will fail adding new games. Alright. Get something to drink and let's go to the tutorial. Alright, when entering the SD card or the original SD card in your PC, this is what you're going to get. We are going to get the games folder. Alright, so we need to open it up by pressing twice on the left mouse button. But from this point on we are going to do this technical nerdy wicked chit chat, because there are quite some things you need to understand before we're going to add the games. Alright, so at first for the people, I'm just going to be honest, I only figured out how to add three-dimensional games. So if you want to add two-dimensional games in this video, it will not be possible. And the reason why I'm going to explain a little bit later in this video for you to understand. So if you are looking to way to add games, you only can do this with the download folder. And here comes the part that I wanted to have this nerdy wicked chit chat. To understand how the device works, there are basically two parts of the SD card. And now you're thinking, two parts? Yes, because the download folder is part number 2. Here you can add the new games. And the games I figured out are the N64, Sega Dreamcast and the PSP. I tried to add PlayStation 1 and add just basically every thinkable two-dimensional game, but it didn't work, it didn't recognize it at all. For example, with PlayStation, I added these in the download folder. I basically ripped my own game and put it in different format like EMG, like an ISO file, the bin file, you name it. I tried everything, even in a zip file or a RAR file. There was no single way it would recognize a PlayStation 1 game. So I basically assumed that adding PlayStation will not be a thing you can do. But here comes the other part, that I can almost say the very big negative part of this SD and this system. What you can see over here, and if you read the manual and what I understand of this is the file that contains all the names of the games, two-dimensional games that are on this SD card. But here comes the problem. If you want to, let's say, add a two-dimensional game, let's say it is possible to put these in the download folder, you need to give these two-dimensional game a certain name. For example, I'm going to search a game for you so you can see and understand what I'm trying to do. Here you can see for a two-dimensional GBA game that has a certain name. We're having Advanced Warfare and then we have JBA. But if you look at the video file and everything is exactly the same. But the weird part is, if you, let's say, grabbing a clean SD with no games on it, you configure it, you're adding this file, including all the needed files, to the clean SD, it won't recognize the two-dimensional game. So again, I am assuming that we can't add two-dimensional game, even if we know how to call the game. You can't add them. So the manual says, yes, you can add the game because you need to have a certain name, but when I'm using the file from the original SD card, even when I'm trying to get the configuration boot file, it doesn't recognize. But I did notice something else. For example, when you're going to the data folder, that contains a lot of games, we can see we having here some database files. I'm guessing here in the database files we need to open it up. I couldn't get them open, maybe there is an encryption or I'm doing something wrong, but when you're going to this database file, I'm guessing that you can find the way to add the two-dimensional game, because you need to, let's say, add the game to the database file, and then it's going to get recognized by the system. So the reason I wanted to talk with you about this is simply because it's one big gigantic mess. It's just not a very easy way that you can say, okay, I want to add some three-dimensional games, two-dimensional games. So this is the problem that I'm having with these better said Pandora Game 3D and all the other versions. Golden Sky, doesn't matter, basically they are all the same. Just want to point this out, but alright, let's go further with adding the games we can. Alright, so one thing is sure, you can't use the original card, and I'm going to explain you why. The first reason is it's filled up to the maximum size, or in other words, you cannot add more games. The second problem is, if you are removing a game, let's say you're saying, okay, I just want to remove the PSP games, it's filling up a lot of space and I don't want to play them. But when you're removing the files itself, and here comes the database problem, you can't remove them from the database file. In other words, they are still going to show up in the menu. So the only thing you can do, in my opinion, is get yourself a bigger card. Depends a little bit what kind of original card is, if it's 32 gigs, 64 gigs. But you need to get yourself a bigger card. So when you're done this and you're added to your PC, you need to format it. The format tool, you open it up, and the first thing you need to choose, format your card in this format, the exFAT. If you don't do this, it's highly possible it doesn't get recognized by this. Alright, but in this step I just wanted to show you, I'm just going to grab a blank SD because I just wanted to show you the games I've added. But there is a catch, but I'm going to come to this later. Alright, you go into the games folder and go into the download folder. That's the only folder that's going to be, let's say, rescanned without the database. So that's more like a separate partition or separate file folder in this SD card where you can add your games. There is no other way. So I added Dreamcast, N64 and PSP. As you can see over here, I made this folder simply because there are multiple files and I recommend you that you're making this folder. Keep in mind, when you're making this folder, the name needs to be exactly the same like the file and the folder. It needs to be exactly the same, no typo, otherwise it's highly possible your system doesn't recognize the game. Alright, and this is something I need to tell you, I added this MP4 file. I did some messing around with the video files because I think it's really cool when you're seeing the game that having this little sample video. I did try different formats, different resolutions, but it doesn't recognize the video file. Again, there's something missing, maybe something I am missing out, but fun fact, I checked the original file on the SD card, for example with the games that came with it. I grabbed the MP4 file, I even renamed it to the Wicked Dreamcast, but it still didn't been recognized. And the reason why I did this is very simple. When you're using the original file that it has been recognized with the system in the game list, and you, let's say, basically give it another name, it needs to show up with the game you have added. But because it didn't show up means that it is just not possible to add video files with the download. So again, a very big negative thing. Alright, so enough chit chat. I'm going to add the SD card to the Gamebox Golden Sky. When the system is boot up, I just wanted to show you this. So fun fact, N64 doesn't get recognized by the Gamebox. I have, let's say, 3 different systems that runs basically on the same software, the Pandora Game 3D. But the Gamebox, for example, shows the Dreamcast, but this is also a little bit messy. You can see that it shows Wicked Dreamcast.gdi. But if you look at the other version, let's go down if possible, you can see that it seems to be trying to find this video file. Don't know why, because it doesn't work, as you can see over here. It's an official file, but it doesn't do anything. But I want to show you over here, even when you're adding a game, it doesn't work perfectly. First of all, when you're booting up a Sega Dreamcast game, for example, and this is with all of the games, you always need to choose your date. So adding games to the Pandora games is a little bit tricky. And as you've seen in the video, it doesn't recognize all the files instantly. This is a little bit annoying, and there is something we can't do about it. For example, the two-dimensional games, it's such a big bummer that it doesn't work. They messed it up big time if it comes to adding the games. We can add some games like Sega Dreamcast, PSP, and some ways we can, and some versions we can even add N64. But keep in mind, even when you're adding the games, it will be buggy. It can be possible it just crashes. I have seen it before, and basically this is what you're going to get. So I hope this video helped you out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell. Become one of the Wicked family. And if you have any questions, you can always leave it in the comments. Maybe me or somebody else can help you out. It would be great to see you in the next video.